Bet. What is good, y'all? I am the dating pool guy. I am cleaning up the dating pool through advice, through reactions, etc., etc. So today we have an interesting video by Story Recapped. Shout out to Story Recap, man. I love their videos. They're great, man. So this one is Psychopath in Insane Asylum tricks his therapist to fall in love with him. I could already tell how this is going to go, and I feel like I already know the advice that I'm going to give, but let's go ahead and check this out, man. Let me turn these subtitles off. All right, let's get it.
A seasoned psychologist becomes entangled with her patient, a notorious repeat offender whose dark history of violent crimes hides a deeper, unsettling truth. At a correctional facility, veteran prison psychologist Nicoline Marbus assumes the role of a hysterical inmate during a training exercise. Afterward, she commends the officers while offering constructive feedback. Sometime later, Nicoline begins a temporary position at an open prison focused on rehabilitating criminals. During her first day at the job, the director, Gaia, praises Nicoline's impressive credentials and offers her a permanent role instead. However, the new hire declines, preferring the flexibility of a temporary arrangement.
All right. So it's gonna be a while before I pause it again. Well, I think, but let me just say this in the beginning. The reason, if y'all notice, I'm smiling because I already know, like, this whole situation, the way they set it up, is women's dream. It is their dream. Having a rough guy, jailbird, real tough, real gritty, has the capacity to kill, but he wouldn't kill me, that kind of thing. It's in the same lane as, what's the movie, where he's like mean and it's like they do like crazy stuff, you know what I'm saying? The Weeknd sings The Heels on there. It'll come to me. But that movie, that movie with the guy and the girl where it's all crazy. Or like you could look at another example of how that, I don't know if y'all remember, there was a guy that went to prison and then his mugshot leaked, right? And all these women were like sending money, like sending letters, like, oh, like, he needs to be released. When he gets out, he could come talk to me, blah, blah, blah. And this was a known felon. I forgot. I think it was like battery or something he did. It was like some serious charges. But all these women were like rooting for him because he was attractive, because he was like, he looked like a model. He did. And then after he got out, he got all these deals with all of these designer brands, these luxury brands. And he was able to go and be a model. But this dude is just a felon. And trust me, I believe in second chances. But the point of this is I'm talking about, this is what the ladies love. This is their dream. The gritty, hard guy that's capable of murder, that's capable of going to jail. We've seen it, like the tough guy. So this is funny to watch. I already know how it's going to go. But I'll still check it out. I love Story Recap, so let's get it.
Following the interview, Nicoline introduces herself to Marieke. The eager intern then guides her to her new assignment. Idris van Leeuwen, a repeat offender with a history of violent crimes against women. Despite his gruesome offenses and intimidating build, Idris has a charming personality that he has used to lure his victims. When Nicoline and Marieke enter the room, Idris calmly greets them. Nicoline subsequently introduces herself as his new therapist. As Nicoline reviews Idris's file, the inmate mentions that he's been approved for occasional unaccompanied leave. Marieke confirms this, adding that only the scheduling details need to be finalized. Although Nicoline acknowledges Idris's progress, she harbors doubts about whether he has truly changed and is ready for reintegration into society. Concealing her reservations, she asks Idris to recount why he was imprisoned. Surprised, he remarks that she should already know, but Nicoline insists on hearing it in his own words. Mildly annoyed, Idris relents and states the nature of his offense. Unconvinced, Nicoline presses him to delve into the details of his crimes. Idris then deflects, refusing to elaborate and suggesting they revisit the topic during their next session. This elicits a sarcastic remark from Nicoline about him trying to set the rules, despite his position. Nevertheless, she chooses not to push further and allows the conversation to end on his terms. While showering, Nicoline is startled to see her mother silently watching her. Later that evening, when the therapist suggests her mother leave, she refuses and insists on staying the night.
50 Shades of Grey. I had to say that.
Morning, Nicoline wakes up with her mother unclothed, curled up against her in bed. But by then, she's already so used to this kind of disturbing behavior from her mother that she hardly reacts.
Whoa.
As Nick
Sorry, hold on. Let me go back.
mother's silent
Let me go back.
position.
I'm sorry. That's my fault.
Nevertheless, she chooses not to push further.
I'm gonna go back because I want to be
Offense.
locked in.
Mildly annoyed, Idris relents and states the nature of his offense. Unconvinced, Nicoline presses him to delve into the details of his crimes. Idris then deflects, refusing to elaborate and suggesting they revisit the topic during their next session. This elicits a sarcastic remark from Nicoline about him trying to set the rules, despite his position. Nevertheless, she chooses not to push further and allows the conversation to end on his terms. While showering, Nicoline is startled to see her mother silently watching her. Later that evening, when the therapist suggests her mother leave, she refuses and insists on staying the night. By morning, Nicoline wakes up with her mother unclothed, curled up against her in bed. But by then, she's already so used to this kind of disturbing behavior from her mother that she hardly reacts. As Nicoline heads to the clinic, the elevator doors open to reveal Idris stepping out, his expression making it clear he's not happy to see her. Later, from her office window, Nicoline watches Idris closely. While other inmates bicker over a rabbit, he stands apart, simply observing the commotion. Meanwhile, a co-worker enters to make small talk, but Nicoline barely acknowledges him, her focus locked on the scene outside. Moments later, Nicoline shifts to another vantage point. To her surprise, she spots Idris now holding the rabbit and gently placing it back in its cage. During a staff meeting, Nicoline strongly opposes granting Idris unsupervised leave, arguing that she believes he hasn't really changed. Her colleagues counter that Idris has shown significant progress and is one of the most cooperative inmates they've worked with. They attribute his past crimes to a violent upbringing, claiming he was also a victim. Unmoved, Nicoline suggests Idris may be deceiving them. A co-worker then reminds her that they've been observing him for 5 years, while she's only been there for 2 days. Nicoline later points to his evasiveness about his past crimes as proof he's not fully rehabilitated. To further strengthen her case, she also highlights his psychopathy score, noting it meets the threshold to classify him as a psychopath. During a coffee break, Gaia acknowledges Nicoline's concerns about Idris and empathizes with her doubts. However, she also encourages the therapist to remain open-minded and give him a fair chance. At a group therapy session, Idris fixates on Nicoline, his gaze unrelenting. Determined to appear unfazed, Nicoline meets his eyes. Suddenly, a scuffle breaks out between 2 inmates, knocking Nicoline to the ground. To her surprise, Idris approaches and calmly helps her to her feet. In their next one-on-one session, Nicoline once again presses Idris to share more details about his crimes, this time asking how he thinks his victims felt. But Idris remains evasive, trying to use his charm to skillfully dodge her questions. When his attention shifts to Marieke, Nicoline dismisses her to get him to focus. With a sly smile, Idris accuses the therapist of being jealous of the beautiful intern. Refusing to play along, Nicoline firmly repeats her question. Eventually, Idris admits he doesn't know how his victims felt. He then accuses her of planning to twist his words to label him as lacking empathy, essentially sabotaging his chances for release. Frustrated, he demands to know what she expects from him, his simmering anger later erupting as he slams his hand against the table. One morning, as Nicoline heads for coffee, Idris hands her a cup he's prepared. She accepts it politely but makes a fresh one for herself. While watching her, the inmate suggests she transfer his case, accusing her of having a personal agenda against him. He then claims she's attracted to him, adding that it's another reason for her to step aside. Unshaken, Nicoline retorts that inmates don't get to choose their therapists.
Alright, you see what he's doing? This right here is playboy toxic behavior, man. Where it's like, let me tell you, this only works if you're attractive. If you're not attractive, you'll end up in here with no parole. The struggle. But if you're like nice looking guy, this guy is obviously a nice looking guy, you know what I'm saying? Whoa. But you know what I'm saying? As a guy, whatever. But you know, she sees him as attractive. The board probably sees him as an attractive guy. And a lot of times I've seen that if you're attractive to society, then you get a lot more love, you get a lot more opportunities, etc., etc. So what he's doing is he's planting seeds in her mind. Like when he helped her up, like you know what I'm saying, made her some coffee, like just staring at her, blah, blah, blah. So these things are like putting little seeds in her head to where, and she's like, okay, he is good looking. And that keeps coming back to her. Every time she has to see him, she thinks about these little things. And so that's what he's doing. He's like putting these things in her head. But once again, if you're not attractive, it might not work. But attractive just isn't about like attractive to everybody. You know what I'm saying? There's somebody that might find you attractive where to them you could do the same thing and they start to think about you like, man, like they are attractive, blah, blah, blah. Like, you know what I'm saying? So let's see how this movie goes.
With a sharp tone, she adds, she's more than capable of handling whatever allure he thinks he has. During a basketball game at the facility, Nicoline arrives to observe. Soon after, the coach, Alex, begins flirting with her. Idris then tosses the ball at Alex, clearly aiming to disrupt what's going on. Later, Idris watches from a window as Nicoline chats with Marieke and Alex in the parking lot. A flicker of jealousy crosses his face, his growing attraction to the therapist becoming increasingly evident. That evening, Nicoline meets Marieke and Alex at a club, where the lively energy and flowing alcohol help her let go of her usual guardedness. As the night unfolds, Nicoline ends up at the coach's place, where they make love. The therapist is unusually assertive, channeling her pent-up emotions into the encounter. During another session, Idris once again asks for a new therapist, but Nicoline firmly refuses, reminding him that it's not an option. Later, in a staff meeting, Nicoline reiterates her doubts about Idris being ready for unsupervised release. After the meeting, Alex stays behind with Nicoline, puzzled by her strong stance. He advises her not to overthink, dismissing Idris as less complex than she perceives. The next day, when Nicoline arrives at the facility, she notices Idris and Marika giggling and seemingly flirting with each other. Somehow, she starts to feel a tinge of jealousy. Without hesitation, she approaches them and sends the intern away.
Somehow. See this man right here? He knows what he's doing, man. It'll be like, so let me get y'all the game, you know what I'm saying? It's crazy. I have a story like this. Well, not like this, you know what I'm saying? Because come on, but no, listen. So basically, there was a time when there was a girl that I know. You know what I'm saying? I still know her, but basically, you know, I had expressed that, you know, I was a little interested. You know what I'm saying? And she was like, "Oh, no, I'm not really interested. I don't see you like that." Bet. Cool, I'm not tripping. So we go to an event, right? And you know, like I'm mingling, I'm talking, and so then I'm talking to another girl from like in front of her, you know what I'm saying? And so then, you know, later on we're all hanging out somewhere else, and then she's like, "Oh, like I see you, you know, talking to other girls and blah blah blah." And I was like, bruh, like, why does that bother you? I didn't tell her that, but I was thinking, I was like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's whatever. But notice, like, she wasn't even interested in me. But because I had someone else, she was like, I don't want to lose that. So a lot of times that happens. As humans, we won't even know we're jealous until, like, somebody else has it. Then we're like, oh, well, maybe I am jealous. And we start to consider it. We start to think about it. But here's the thing, though, like, you got to know, like, you have to come to the conclusion, like, okay, like, I don't want them. It doesn't matter who has them. I'm done with it. And I feel like until you reach that point in your mind, there'll always be an opportunity for you to go back. So just make sure that in your mind, like, when you let somebody go, just be thinking like, okay, I let them go for a reason. It doesn't matter if I have them or it doesn't matter if somebody else meets them. Cool for them. I'm done with it. But if you never make that up in your mind, you'll get into these places where he's finessing her.
Idris watches with a hint of amusement as if confirming his suspicions. Later that afternoon, as Nicoline observes the rabbit in its cage, Idris approaches her unexpectedly. Out of the blue, he blurts out that he has a son. Nicoline immediately questions the claim, noting that his files make no mention of a child. Curious, she asks why he's bringing this up now. Idris then claims that being more open is his way of giving back to her. He casually adds that he's heard women appreciate openness. Unamused, Nicoline counters, pointing out that women aren't as simple as he assumes. Still doubtful, she presses him for more details about his supposed son. Idris then shares that his son's name is Milan, and that he works at a nearby KFC. Before Nicoline can probe any further, though, she is called away, leaving the conversation unresolved. After work, Nicoline visits a KFC to verify Idris's claim. However, she couldn't get herself to ask the employees for information. That night, Nicoline can't stop thinking about Idris.
That dude looks like him. That's probably his son.
On one hand, she sees him as too dangerous to re-enter society. On the other hand, she's starting to fall for his charm and recognize the positive traits in him that her colleagues have been saying. In an effort...
Hey, all right, I'm sorry. I'm gonna try and let the rest rock, but that's what I'm talking about. You see how that happens? Like, she was like, no, I don't have an interest in him. Like, blah, 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 I don't care. But he was planting those seeds, and those seeds are starting to bloom, especially with that jealousy that kickstarted her being like, well, maybe he's not so bad. Like, well, maybe, blah, blah. And this is what happens a lot of times, how people end up in toxic relationships, or they go back to toxic relationships because they always have this thing where they feel like, okay, there's another side to them that they're only showing me, or, you know, I'm thinking this and this and this about them. They might have a past, but like, you know, they're good at heart. Like, they do have good traits, you know what I'm saying? But ultimately it comes down to, are you attracted to them? Honestly, he was right to be like, I need another therapist, because obviously, I mean, he's right. But he already knew what he was doing. And so now she's just falling for it, bruh. So I see it all the time.
To take her mind off of him, Nicoline sends a casual text to Alex, inviting him for a date the following day. The next morning, in an unusual move, the therapist applies makeup before attending a basketball game at the facility. When she arrives, Idris immediately notices her polished look. His gaze lingers, with his expression turning to annoyance when he suspects she dressed up for Alex. After the game, Nicoline congratulates Alex on his coaching before deciding to wait for him in the car. On her way to the parking lot, Idris intercepts her, pointedly remarking on her lipstick and calling it unprofessional. Nicoline simply ignores his taunts and walks past him without a word. When Alex finally arrives at the parking lot, he confronts Nicoline, asking her what's going on between her and Idris. Nicoline denies there's anything to discuss, but Alex presses her to open up, assuring her that he's there to help. Alex then explains that he's known Idris for a long time and is aware of his penchant.
Wait, hold on. I'm gonna go back real quick because I want to make sure. That she said that who she texted, just to make sure. I guess she texted. Hold on, real quick, y'all, and then I'm gonna go.
Nicoline sends a casual text to Alex, inviting him.
Oh, okay.
Simply ignores his taunts and walks past him without a word.
She did text Alex.
When Alex finally arrives at the parking lot,
coach.
He confronts Nicoline, asking her what's going on between her and Idris. Nicoline...
This is where he's going wrong. Alex, you tripping. Let it rock. Y'all ain't together. Let it rock. You know what I'm saying? You do your part. If, you know, that is unprofessional. But if she's seeing somebody else, if y'all aren't together, you got to be chill. You got to be cool, calm, collective. When you come off as this, you're pushing her to somebody else. But when you're like chilling, look, I'm chilling. I ain't judging you. I'm going forward. This is what I'm gonna do. If you want to be with me, and then you can kind of see her actions and decide if you want to go forward and take it seriously. If you want to be serious with her, then you can grow to that. But in the like courting phases, in the, you know, we went on a date, you know, getting to know them phases. Hey, it's about me and you. When you're not here, hey, I like you, but I'm not gonna get hung up on you. I'm gonna watch you to see if I want to go to the next step with you. You know what I'm saying?
Denies there's anything to discuss, but Alex presses her to open up, assuring her that he's there to help.
No.
Alex then explains that he's known Idris for a long time and is aware of his penchant for intimidating others. He urges Nicoline to let him know if Idris is doing the same to her, offering to step in and support her if needed. However, Nicoline only gets irritated.
See, they don't like it. They don't like it. Don't be the hero. Don't save her. She don't want to be. Hey, shout out to J. Cole. But no, like, that's what I'm saying. Don't do this. See? Oh, I'm here to help. I'm here to support you. Weak. And notice, then when she crashes out on you, now you really have an issue. Because she's like, ew, you're annoying. You're annoying me. I don't like you. That's what's happening.
Interpreting Alex's concern as overprotectiveness. She insists that she's not intimidated by Idris and doesn't need anyone's help to do her job. Frustrated by her reaction, Alex gives up and cancels their date. While Nicoline sits in her car, confused about her feelings, she spots her manager, Gaia, leaving the building.
Now she's confused.
Without hesitation, she rushes over to her and asks that another therapist take over Idris. However, Gaia misinterprets Nicoline's request as frustration over her co-worker's disagreement with her assessment of him. So she commends Nicoline for standing firm in her views. She also reassures her that differing opinions are healthy in their profession. Still determined to move on from Idris, Nicoline later assigns Marieke to lead the sessions temporarily. The eager intern happily obliges. Marieke then asks Idris about his plans for his upcoming 4-hour unsupervised leave. Though slightly confused by her taking over, Idris excitedly shares his plans to visit a nearby beach. Meanwhile, Nicoline observes in silence, taking notes. When Idris casually asks if she's familiar with the beach, she pointedly ignores him in an attempt to suppress her growing feelings for him. The next day, Idris goes ahead with his unsupervised leave. Curious, Nicoline quietly follows him to see if he'll stick to his word. True enough, he goes to the beach, just as he said he would. Savoring the freedom that he hasn't had in almost 5 years, he stands by the shore and gazes at the calm waves. As Nicoline observes him, she begins to realize that her co-workers might be right about him after all.
No.
And somewhere in the back of her mind, a thought she can't quite suppress starts to take hold. Maybe there could be something more between them. Nicoline eventually approaches Idris, but his displeasure is evident. Her presence feels like an intrusion on his unsupervised time. He immediately turns and walks away without a word. But when she follows, he reluctantly sits in the sand, with her joining him in silence. Testing her resolve, Idris soon gets up and relieves himself nearby. He then follows it up by provocatively placing his thumb on Nicoline's mouth.
Ew. Oh. Oh no, I'm fighting. No, no. That's nasty. You ain't wash your hands? Oh.
Gauging her reaction. When she doesn't resist, it becomes clear to him that she is indeed attracted to him. Moments later, he steps back and apologizes. With firm resolve, he tells her that whatever she might be hoping for between them isn't going to happen. That night, Nicoline visits her mother's house, seeking solace. Confused by her growing feelings for Idris and reeling from his rejection, she turns to her mother for comfort. However, when her mother begins to touch her inappropriately once again, Nicoline finally finds the strength to resist. At the correctional facility, Nicoline tells Idris it's time for a new therapist, making sure to avoid acknowledging what happened the previous day. Confused by this move after how she reacted to him yesterday, he decides to ignore her and walk away. Hours later, chaos erupts when the inmates find their beloved rabbit brutally killed. As they gather around the lifeless animal, Idris stands apart, his expression unreadable. When Nicoline arrives, Idris calmly picks up the rabbit and tosses it into the garbage without a word. She later finds him inside the facility, struggling to breathe, his eyes filled with tears. His remorse over the rabbit is unmistakable. After collecting himself, he acknowledges her earlier suggestion about needing a new therapist. After a tense silence, however, Idris steps closer, gently pulling Nicoline against the wall. Though visibly nervous, she doesn't resist. Testing her boundaries again, he leans in for a kiss, pausing just before their lips meet to see how she'd react. When she doesn't pull away, he teasingly repeats the gesture, keeping her on edge before finally kissing her. Caught up in the moment, Nicoline responds with unrestrained passion. Idris couldn't help but revel in her surrender. Toying with her further, he presses the panic button on her waist, triggering the security alarm. When the security arrives, Nicoline quickly regains her composure. Slipping back into her professional demeanor, she calmly informs them that it was just a false alarm. Overwhelmed by the day's events, Nicoline decides to spend the night in her car. The next morning, still in
They love the drama. No. True.
Yesterday's clothes, she returns to work feeling unsettled. Determined to request a new therapist for Idris, she later heads to Gaia's office, only to find it empty. When she glances out the window, she notices Idris playing football outside. Marieke soon joins her, casually mentioning that Idris already has a son. Nicoline nods quietly without revealing that she's already heard about it. The intern then reveals that Idris's son works at a McDonald's. This catches Nicoline off guard, as she had assumed it was KFC. With a laugh, Marieke admits to visiting the restaurant to confirm it. She then jokes about the silliness of what she did, unaware that Nicoline had done the same. That evening, Nicoline finally returns to her apartment. She begins cleaning up immediately in an effort to regain some sense of normalcy. The next morning, as she's preparing to go to work, she suddenly hears her doorbell ring. Upon opening the door, she's stunned to see Idris, who explains that he's on another unsupervised leave.
No, he's not.
With firm resolve, Nicoline informs him that she won't let him in. Nevertheless, as Idris turns to leave, she hesitates, lingering by the open door. Sensing her conflicted emotions, Idris pauses and turns back, noticing that she hasn't closed the door. A knowing look then crosses his face as it becomes clear to him that Nicoline doesn't really want to send him away. Emboldened, Idris suddenly strides back toward her and pushes his way inside. Idris begins wandering around Nicoline's apartment, as if marking his territory while she trails behind him, uncertain and uneasy. Struggling to maintain control, she eventually asks him what he thinks is going to happen. After some pause, Idris sidesteps the question, instead asking for a cup of coffee. While preparing the drink...
Let me say this real quick, y'all, before we finish this up. We got 4 minutes, okay. Here's the thing, bro. Okay, what he's doing right now is he's creating mystery. He's creating his own story where she's like, I don't know what he's gonna do next. Is he dangerous? Is he not dangerous? Sorry about the vacuuming in the back, you know what I'm saying? But she's wondering, like, is he dangerous? Is he not dangerous? Is he gonna kill me? Is he not gonna kill me? Do I love him? Maybe. Unless he kills me, then I can't love him because I'm dead. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm unalive. There we go. I'm still working on the YouTube thing. But you see, like, so he's got her in this like mystery mindset. She doesn't know what he's thinking. She doesn't know how he's going to react. And, you know, that's something that I had a lot more when I was younger. I feel like I had more mystery where I did what I want. I still kind of do what I want. But, you know, I think people kind of they feel like they have me figured out. And what happens is when people feel like, especially ladies, when they feel like they have you figured out, it becomes a thing where, you know, they're like, there's nothing really interesting. I know him. You know what I'm saying? And for my lady viewers too, vice versa. Like, you know what I'm saying? I know that, you know, guys will be like, no, I want a girl that's this and that and this. We do. We want a girl that's respectable. You know what I'm saying? All this different stuff. But I have noticed that a lot of guys feel like they have a lot of fun with like the girls that are mysteries as well. But I'm realizing, like, I used to think that was only for like women seeking men, but I've realized just as humans, we like mystery. We like a good storyline. We like twists and turns. We like, you know, things like that. So have some mystery to you. Not this kind, not psychopath mystery, but, you know what I'm saying? Don't reveal everything. You know, don't make everything known. Oh, well, what'd I do? All right, hold on, y'all.
Nicoline cautiously asks Idris to assure her he won't harm her.
Hold on, y'all. Exit. Supersize. Play.
He responds playfully, suggesting that a promise would ruin the excitement, before dismissing it as a joke. When the therapist reaches for her phone, Idris snatches it and places it out of reach, heightening her anxiety. Trying to ease the mood, he proceeds to talk about wanting a genuine relationship with her after his release. With her voice trembling, Nicoline apologizes for any misunderstanding and insists she never intended to make him believe that she wanted a relationship. Though Nicoline harbors a twisted infatuation and has fantasized about intimacy with Idris, she remains acutely aware of the danger he represents. Unfazed, Idris picks up her phone and asks for the password, claiming he needs to check the bus schedule. When Nicoline offers to do it herself, he tells her to sit and relax, saying her behavior is making him nervous.
This man is crazy. Also, side note, that's where he messed up. When he started asking for the relationship. He was like, I want a serious relationship with you. No. She was like interested in you, sadly, as a fling. It's terrible. But see, when you try to escalate the relationship before she's ready, this is how it always goes. She should be attracted. Then as soon as she hears, hey, like, let's have a relationship. Let's, you know what I'm saying? We should be more. We should, skirt. Nope. She has to be the one to give you that. She is the one be the one to say that, because she's the one that has to sort out her feelings. We could already know how we feel. You know what I'm saying? We'll make a decision. We're like, okay, I really like them. This is what I want, blah, blah, blah. But it's up to her to sort out her feelings. If she doesn't feel like that, then she feels like you're rushing. She feel like it's too much. And notice like all the stuff with the beach, what happened in that little room or whatever. You could see that she was attracted, but as soon as he was like, oh, like, I want a serious relationship, she was like, yeah, I'm sorry for leading you on. Like, I don't know. Right? After you can see she clearly likes him. So, but she only likes him in that way, as the dangerous attraction, you know what I'm saying? Like that. She don't see no real relationship with him, so.
Just then, the doorbell rings once again. When Idris gets up to check the camera, it turns out to be Nicoline's mother. Unsure of letting in the woman with whom she's had a complicated relationship, Nicoline ends up resting her head on Idris's lap. This surprises him and prompts him to pull the curtains close, thinking that she's now ready for intimacy. However, Nicoline turns emotional. She admits to being afraid of Idris and asks him to leave. Idris refuses to believe her though, arguing that she doesn't really mean it. Nicoline tries to reason with him, explaining that he can still leave without jeopardizing his release. But instead of leaving, Idris shifts the blame to her, accusing her of using her position to pursue her own desires. Deeply offended, Nicoline snaps at him in anger. Attempting to calm her, Idris declares that he truly loves her. However, when Nicoline continues to resist, his demeanor suddenly shifts. With much force, he pins her down and proceeds to take advantage of her.
Oh, no.
At one point, Idris suddenly stops, apologizing and calmly explaining that he can be rough at times. He adds that he thought she could take it and urges her to speak up next time, seemingly justifying his behavior. He then reaffirms his love, but a shaken Nicoline can barely respond. Before leaving, he asks if she'll be at the facility. She can only give a faint nod as she's still traumatized by what just happened. Soon after, he departs, leaving her consumed by fear and anguish.
Nah, man.
A moment later,
Can't do that.
Nicoline checks her phone and reads a seemingly apologetic message from her mother, reminding her she's a brave woman.
Knew it?
Overcome with emotions, she ends up breaking down in tears. Later that day, Nicoline arrives.
Poor lady. She's just gone through so much, man. No means no. No means no.
Arrives at the facility with a determined look on her face. She then heads straight to Idris's cell, catching him off guard. Silently, she closes the door, removes her underwear, and pulls him into a kiss away from the camera. Idris responds eagerly, but as the moment intensifies, Nicoline discreetly presses the panic button on her waist, triggering the alarm. Realizing her betrayal, Idris turns aggressive, grabbing her in frustration. Before things could escalate further, officers rush in, pulling the inmate off her. Enraged and feeling betrayed, he struggles against them, shouting that the therapist loves him. As the chaos settles, Nicoline decides to lie in his bed. After a moment, she collects herself, gets up, and leaves the cell, satisfied with her act of retribution.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications.
Yeah, so I mean, she was crazy too. You know what I'm saying? The whole time she was crazy, but I will say she's been through a lot. Her own mom, crazy, bruh. Yeah, notes at the end. You see that people will have a vision of you in their mind, and they'll have their own thing of attraction. The thing about it is you have to continue to be who you are. So you have to decide who you are. You can't be trying to fake and be like, okay, I'm gonna be like this person. Ooh, I'm gonna be like blah blah blah. No, you have to, in your free time away from people, if you're gonna be mysterious, you have to naturally add that to yourself. You can't add someone else's mystery to you. You have to see like, okay, how am I mysterious? Like, what kind of things do I keep to myself? Like, how am I as a person? And then that's how you move, and those are the people that you're going to attract. You're not going to attract everybody, but you'll attract the ones that are there for you. You know what I'm saying? The woman that is for you, or the man that's for you, you'll attract them by being you. That's the only person that will come to you because they'll be attracted to you. Yeah, final notes on this. This was crazy, man. I understand she was crazy, but yo, Nickel? I'm gonna call him Nickel, you know, was that her name? Whatever, the dude with the mohawk. Basically, yeah, once you get to that point of forcing yourself on somebody, you know, you've already lost. You already lost. The way she set him up at the end, That's messed up. But I mean, hey, you call for it, bruh. Like, that's on you. You was already going that way. So that's pretty much it, y'all. Hope y'all enjoyed this video. Like, share, subscribe, man. Subscribe and share. You know what I'm saying? Comment. I want to hear from you guys. Peace.